Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, so today we are going over chapters 3 through 5 and buy back your time. I think last week was really good getting into it, and I just reviewed 3 through 5 again last night, and it was so good. Um, so if you have the book, chapter 3 starts on page 47. And I loved the example that he gave between his friend Lionel and Richard Branson about like going on trips with each of them. And I think it probably hits home to most real estate agents. So, like, the question that they have at the bottom of page 48 is the next time you go on a ski trip, do you want to be Lionel or Branson? So, as a reminder, Richard Branson invited him to go on a ski trip. And while they were on the ski trip, he said every morning Branson hit the slopes with us, laughed on the chairlifts, cracked jokes throughout the day. He was relaxed, excited, and fully present. He carried less stress than many of the other entrepreneurs visiting him. Other than Branson's one employee who joined us, his administrative assistant, nothing from work followed him into the powder. And then on his friend Lionel, it says, where did it go? Okay, his friend Lionel, at the time that he went on a trip, he owned a forestry company with 2 million in revenue and 16 employees. At that stage, you think he would have had his company running like a well-oiled machine, but the company was running him. On my trip with Lionel, he spent our entire drive on his phone, barking orders and putting out fires. While the chairlift was pulling his body up, his mind was checked out, ticking off imaginary checklists. He couldn't even pretend to have fun. His company was a handful of employees and 2 million in revenue, which was sucking him dry. So I thought that was interesting and a good point of reflection of like how many times do we plan vacations and we go on vacation and things happen and you end up like being on vacation but not being actually present and not enjoying the vacation, right?
Right.
So the question is, the next time you go on a ski trip, do you want to be like Lionel or do you want to be like Branson? I would like to be like a happy medium of the two.
Right. Me too. I see myself right now as the Lionel, because I do feel like, if it's not going to get done if I don't do it. And so that's what happens to most of our vacations is I don't feel like I'm as present as I'd like to be.
Yeah.
But I also don't ever see myself as like Richard Branson, who's, like uber billionaire successful and, really and truly has bought back his time.
We can always strive for it though.
Totally. Amen.
All right, on page 53, it starts talking about the 5 assassins that kill your success. So it says overall, the subconscious need for uncertainty and chaos comes out in one of 5 ways, which I call the 5 time assassins to entrepreneurial success. There's the staller. You sabotage your own success by hesitating on big decisions. Next is the speed demon. You make rapid decisions, such as hiring the quickest, easiest, cheapest option. Then you find yourself in the same position again. The supervisor, you fail to properly train, micromanaging others, failing to empower them to grow and learn. The saver, you have money in your bank account, but don't understand the value in spending it on growth opportunities. You let it grow like a nest egg instead of investing it in your business. And then the last one, the self-medicator, you turn to food, alcohol, or other vices to reward yourself when you have success. Then you rush to the same destructive activities to escape failure or pain. I feel like realtors get a bad rap on self-medicators for sure. Um, I'm trying to think if I can think of any examples that have happened recently on any of these for me. I think like I talked with my business coach like a month ago about when we were talking about changing the name of the brokerage and doing all the things. And like my question to her was, am I just making up stuff for myself to do, or does this make sense to do at this time? So that was probably like, I don't know, like I think I was being a demon, but I was making sure I wasn't being a staller. So I think I was kind of like in the middle of both of those, making sure I was making the right decision.
I think a lot of real estate agents have a hard time with change, and the unknown. And so I think that the staller might come into play too,
Yeah.
you know, there.
Well, and then he gives a great example about how um, he had a coaching client and he was gonna that would he thought would be perfect to get in front of his audience. And so he sent him an email, and like 2 weeks later, the email was still sitting in his coaching client's inbox. He followed up, there was nothing. And then when he finally responded back, which was like 21 days later, at that point he was like, well, I couldn't, he felt like he couldn't partner with him because he had stalled so long on it.
Hmm.
And I have this highlighted on page 57. It's under the speed demon. It says, we do not learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience. Without stopping to consider why something happened, you're unlikely to fix the issue. I thought that was really good.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I probably have stepped into the supervisor, failed to properly train, and then end up micromanaging when I was first leveraging my business and hiring assistants and stuff. And so I think that was a huge growth thing for me over 3 or 4 years, to where if I hire someone and I truly feel like they're in the position that they should be in, training them properly of what my expectations are, and then learning to inspect what I expect rather than
Yeah.
constantly micromanaging.
Yeah.
But I know that my inherently, I am get shit done. I am the, I'll just do it myself. It'll take me longer to explain what I want than to just do it. So.
Yeah. All right. And then on page 63, I love how he does at the end of each section, he has like the 5 buyback rules and then like the step into the arena. So on page 63, under the 5 buyback rules, kind of summarizing chapter 3, he says, number one, research confirms what business coaches have observed for years. Most entrepreneurs are addicted to chaos. Your number two, your ability to deal with chaos gives you an entrepreneurial advantage, but you can also it can also make you subconsciously seek out chaos. Three, your chaos addiction shows up as one of the 5 time assassins: the staller, speed demon, supervisor, saver, or the self medicator. Most people bounce from one assassin to the other without facing the root problem, which is the addiction to chaos. And number 5, becoming the person you want to be requires you to get real with any demons. And this was really good. Under the step into the arena, he says to take out a sheet of paper and list your last 10 major decisions, the ones that really shook things up. Look at your list and ask yourself, were these all necessary or were they hand grenades? And then look for the patterns in the decisions that weren't necessary. Were you rushing, micromanaging, penny pinching? Then, if you see a pattern emerge, write down your current assassin. And if you really want to have fun with this, you could always print off a picture of a target and write the supervisor or the speed demon or whatever assassin you're currently facing. Fold up that target and put it in your wallet or purse and carry it around with you. So then we go on to chapter 4. And I don't know why, but I like so much when he was like talking about Oprah. And so it starts off chapter 3. It says, Oprah achieved her monumental success not because she found luck, wealth, or privilege. She had next to none of those, but because she found what lights her up. Once she discovered the magic of talk shows, she dumped all her time and energy into that task. Um, I think later in the book he like goes on to talk about like what Oprah's actual like full day looks like, which is pretty amazing. On page 66, it starts talking about the three trade levels. So you're either a level 1, 2, or 3 trader. A level 1 is an employee, level 2 is an entrepreneur, and level 3 is an empire builder. What I found interesting on level 1 trader, the employee, an employee trades their time for more money. So even if you own your own business, if you're trading your time for more money, you're an employee. You just happen to be an employee of your own company. That was kind of like a aha moment, because if you just sit and think about it and you're like, am I an employee, an entrepreneur, or an empire builder? You probably say you're an entrepreneur or an empire builder, but really, if your business can't function without you on a daily basis, you're still an employee. A level 2 trader entrepreneur is an entrepreneur who trades their money for more time. So it says here you'll have shaken off the notion that more hours equals more money. You'll understand that your money can buy you more time to build the life you desire, the business you've always wanted, and an empire few others can imagine. And then level three trader, empire builder. An empire builder trades their money for more money. So you go from trading time for more money, then trading money for more time, and then trading money for more money. So players like Branson and Oprah have completely bought back their time. They're not just business owners, they're in another category altogether. They're building their own empires. They are the sole authors of their entrepreneurial journeys, and their time isn't even on the trading block anymore. They found freedom. And so I like on chapter 69, it has a really good chart that shows those three levels of trading: time for money, money for time, or money for money. So then it says, okay, so how do we get there? And then he goes on to say, the easiest way is to start, which I think it was on page 30 that we went through the last time, about the drip matrix. And so at first he talks about the easiest way to get quick wins is in that bottom left-hand corner, which is delegation. So that's like your low-hanging fruit that can go into your delegation quadrant. And he says, that's why we calculated your buyback rate in chapter 2. Armed with that information, you can now begin to buy back your time that's being spent in that bottom left-hand corner, which is delegation. Let's see. And then on page 72, have you ever done, Casey, a time audit of like tracking every 15 minutes, like where you're spending your time?
I did, but it's been a while ago.
Yeah. I just thought this was like a really good reminder, because I was actually listening to a replay from one of my group coaching calls the other day, and she was a lady that was talking was like, oh, I like the last month I did a time audit. It was so interesting to find out how much time, like as a good reminder about what she spent most of her time on. And it also says a time study can help acknowledge small energy fluctuations so that later you can plan your week around your energy. And then it says the 4 steps of a time and energy audit. He says that your calendar can't lie, which we talked about. We talked a lot about our calendars in our goal setting class last week, which was interesting. But on page 73, he says the 4 steps of a time and energy audit. Number 1, determine your buyback rate. Number 2, audit every 15 minutes of your workday for 2 weeks, every 15 minutes. And then assign dollar amounts to each task using $1 to $4 signs. He says you can think of it as Google's restaurant pricing ranges. So $1 sign, it would be something very low, and $4 signs would be something high, like high dollar value. And then highlighting everything in red or green. So once you've collected 2 weeks worth of data and marked everything with $1 to $4, grab two highlighters, then mark everything you love doing that gives you energy in green and everything that sucks your energy that makes you want to procrastinate or makes you feel anxious with the red highlighter. I think when I did this years ago, there was a lot of red on my charts.
I can think of a few.
So then at the end of chapter 4, under his 5 buyback rules, number 1, a level 1 trader is an employee trading time for more money. Level 2 trader is an entrepreneur trading money for more time. And a level 3 trader is an empire building trading money for money. These are the only 3 trades you can make. Most people, even if they own their own businesses, are firmly entrenched in being an employee who is selling their time for money. Buying back your time starts when you begin using the money you have to repurchase your time. And then under the step into the arena, he says our homework for this chapter is to do a time and energy audit. So then moving on to chapter 5 on the replacement ladder, the quote on the top says, if your business depends on you, you don't own a business, you have a job. And it's the worst job in the world because you're working for a lunatic. Oh, this one was so good too. So I did not know this, but so in the beginning of chapter 5, he talks about Andy Warhol, and it says that Andy Warhol's life may be better documented than that of any other artist in the history of the world. In the end, 85,000 pieces of art, as well as 500 films, have Warhol's name attached to them. And it said in 2014, his artwork accounted for about 15% of the entire world's art trade, which is insane. And then it goes on to talk about how instead of just being an artist, he actually built his artist business as a businessman. So he found a way to continually reproduce his own ideas. So he used studio assistants. He found a way to replace himself with others so that all of his artwork truly was an Andy Warhol piece. So he managed to make and create a replicable process around what's arguably one of the hardest things to reproduce systematically, creative art, which is wild. Like, I never knew any of that story. So he says he didn't just turn his art into a business, his art was business. And although his methods were controversial in art, they're not in the business world. I thought that was so interesting. So then on page 82 and 83, he starts talking about the replacement ladder. So, and I think on page 84 is actually a picture of it. So he kind of gives you a ladder of where to start at on hiring based on your feelings. So if right now you're feeling stuck, it's because you most likely need to hire an admin. If you feel stalled, you need to hire someone for your delivery. Friction, hire for marketing. Freedom for sales. Flow for leadership. So he goes on for the next quite a few pages discussing each one of those rungs of the ladder. And he reminds us to not hire to grow our business, but hire to buy back our time. Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah. Recently I have hired somebody who's like a personal assistant. She's actually stationed overseas in Italy with her husband. But it's definitely been good because she's looking to me to hold her accountable, and it's in turn like holding me accountable and helping me
Yeah.
grow.
So
And my predict
what tasks are you having her do?
I have her doing my socials for my Meta business and my open houses, like the advertising of my open houses and things like that. So a lot of it's my marketing stuff, but it's also like helping me get more testimonials and grow my Google business page and those other things too. Trying to be very specific on, the direction that I want to go as a single agent instead of trying to grow a team.
Yeah.
Kind of a shift.
That's awesome. So that pretty much all of the remainder of chapter 5 is about the replacement ladder and each of those rungs. So under the 5 buyback rules at the end of chapter 5, the first one is after removing smaller items off your plate that are sucking you into the delegation quadrant, many entrepreneurs get stuck in the replacement quadrant. Here, tasks are valuable, but they are still draining the founder of energy. Number 2, to get out of the replacement quadrant, you can use the ladder to systematically follow the rungs in order to remove tasks off your plate in a way that aligns with the money you have available. So often something you're good at, but isn't in your production quadrant is the most difficult to transfer to someone else. You have some skill and you can execute with a fair amount of expertise, but you can't move up the ladder until you offload the responsibility of that task. Typically, you'll want to follow the ladder up in order, beginning with an administrative assistant. If you have an established company with many employees already, it may be useful to consider how you're currently feeling and then focus on that rung of the ladder. And then the step into the arena for the homework of this chapter was to determine where you're at on the replacement ladder and ask yourself, how am I feeling about my business? Then consider which responsibilities of the replacement ladder are you currently struggling with that are keeping you in the replacement quadrant, and then determine how you can begin to transfer those tasks to someone else. Do you need to hire someone, or do you need to simply move them off your shoulders and onto someone else on your team? Which I thought is so good. And then I have some reflection questions again for each of the chapters that I will just send out in the replay email. I'm trying to find them on my phone, but they're just some really good reflection questions that are broken down for each of the chapters to kind of help you dig a little bit deeper. But that's all I had for today. Any comments or questions?
I think it's great. I think it's really good stuff. And my number one task for this week is to do the time.
Do the time audit?
Yes.
Ooh.
And I think it's all going to be red, and I think it's very scary. So I will stall on it as long as possible.
So I'm making a note next week's book club to see if you did your time audit. And then next week, it looks like I don't have it on my. I thought I had it on the. Oh, are you able to look quick on anything that we sent out on the buyback? What chapters are for next week? Because I don't see it on the invite.
Okay, let me see.
Let me look on mine too. I don't see it, but we'll send out a text as a reminder. It's probably at least 2 or 3 chapters for next week.
Okay.
I know I have it written down somewhere. I'll let you guys know.
Okay.
All right. Well, have a good Friday. Have a good weekend if I don't talk to anyone.
Bye.
See you next week.
You.
Bye.
Bye.